Thank you, Mr. President. Like some others here, I'm a small business owner. So we've heard some of those stories, and I've got some others to share with you as well. But the reactions of small businesses to this unfunded mandate, members, can only be a reduction of benefits or a reduction of pay in order to pay for this, because what we have here is a bill that comes and takes money from the employees, takes money from the employers, the future salary increases for the employees, and creates a big government bureaucracy. Now the stories, Mr. President, from whether it's, we began this discussion talking about local units of government, and $208 million per biennium that in unfunded mandates to local units of government, schools. Senator Pratt covered it, schools and counties and cities and other local units of government. This is an unfunded mandate on them, and it's going to cost more money. It's going to be an increase in property tax, in addition to the tax increases that employees and employers are paying in this bill. $2.8 or $2.9 billion every biennium that is going to be exacted upon workers and businesses in our state. This was unplanned for. This is something that the employers, especially the small business employers, I can't imagine what this could mean for many of our small businesses around the state, but I'll share some of those in a bit. First of all, I want to share some, I've got a bunch of emails from these, and I highlighted some areas I think that are important. The people of Minnesota are speaking loudly on this bill. This mandate that is being placed upon them by Minnesota Democrats who are in hot pursuit of their socialist woke agenda. And so the first I have here is from a superintendent of schools. She says 24 weeks of leave for one hourly employee would be approximately $15,000. 24 weeks of leave for a certified or licensed employee, $25,000, Mr. President. And then she goes on to point out that 4 or 5 employees to result in nearly $100,000 in their school and substitution costs. And if it's 8 to 10 employees, that could be $160,000 to $180,000 in increased costs. She says ultimately, this would become another unfunded mandate and cross subsidy on our schools. And Senator Mann and I were arguing earlier about whether this is a mandate or not. There seems to be denial among the Democrats about what they're doing. They're mandating this, and you'll hear it from the exact words of my constituents. The Goodhue School District, a very small, tiny school district, my district says that it's going to cost them at least $15,000 or $16,000 per year, and their only option is going to be to increase property taxes. I heard from the Plainview School District. Their estimated cost of paid family medical leave, $36,135. And they point out this will not help student achievement. Lewiston School District. I am not able to provide you specific cost estimates on items you specified, but I can assure you that each of those unfunded mandates have significant costs for us and are very concerning. Another school district, $57,716.92. That's for one teacher being gone at a time in their school district, Mr. President. another very tiny school district in my district, or in a neighboring district actually. The payroll tax for paid family medical leave, $19,000.44. Their only recourse is going to be to increase property taxes. Senator Nelson covered, the city of Rochester said $565,000. Excuse me, the Rochester school districts, I apologize, $565,000. Stewartville schools, $70,000. Goodhue, $16,000. Plainview, $36,000. Byron, $57,000. Rushford Peterson said $19,000 increases to their districts. Now again, what is the recourse, Mr. President? What do these districts have to do? In the education bill, we are already setting them back with huge increases in mandates. This is one of them. This is one of many. And then we're giving them increases that don't even cover the cost of these additional mandates. You can expect at the Truth and Taxation hearings in December of next year that there will be feedback to what then will be an impending property tax increase throughout all of our cities and counties and school districts in the state of Minnesota. The businesses are equally, or maybe even more, frustrated with this legislature's action, Mr. President. This is from a business owner, and he says, "Your misinformed action with this bill will crush small business. By passing this bill, you are allowing people to take time off from work by penalizing the small business they work for. We do not have a plug-and-play solution when it comes to workers." This legislature is being tone deaf to the realities of businesses in this state. This one from a nonprofit, Mr. President. She says, "This bill could be devastating to Minnesota nonprofits such as Family Service Rochester, who serve the areas of child protection and welfare, mental health, and senior independence." These are coming from people who own businesses and manage nonprofits and governments. The next one from another business, it looks like a carpentry business from the email, Mr. President. "It would warrant the dismissal of our employees as a small business due to the unaffordability, and many small businesses would have to do the same if this passed." Another small business, this constituent is from my small town of Mazeppa. "I have 2 full-time and 3 part-time employees besides myself. If I had to give just one of my full-time employees 12 weeks off, I would be losing 33% of my workforce for nearly 25% of the year, which would be devastating. If both used leave simultaneously, I would be out of business." That was his response, Mr. President. These are real people that are talking about the impacts of what Minnesota Democrats are about to do to them. Here is another small business constituent. "We work hard to take care of our employees and community with the means of our business. This expensive mandate will make it harder for small businesses like ours to invest in our business, attract workers, and keep up with our competition." That was a constituent from Altura in Winona County. Another email, Mr. President. "If enacted in its current form, Minnesota would have the most expansive and expensive paid family medical leave mandate in the nation in terms of eligibility, qualifying events, benefits, and employer obligation." He goes on to say, "This expensive one-size-fits-all program takes away business ability to work collaboratively with their teams to create plans that fit their needs." This Lake City constituent says, "As an industry, we ask that you take the time to consider the effect of this mandate on businesses, shoppers, and communities. Continuing to add expensive mandates on an industry that operates on small margins will directly impact all consumers in Minnesota by raising costs and threatens to push our smaller independent operators to the brink. That's just a handful of the emails I received from my district. I've got some that came from outside of the district too, Mr. President. This one is Michael from St. Paul, says Minnesota small business has been taxed continually and new taxes seem to not stop. We can easily move to a border state. That was an individual business owner, small business owner from St. Paul. Jerry from Minneapolis. If this passes, our fast-growing $200 million company will almost certainly seek to expand operations and personnel additions outside of Minnesota. Shannon from International Falls, Mr. President, says, as small business owner as well as a leader in our local Chamber of Commerce, I speak for all when I urge you not to vote for this legislation. We are already under so much pressure, and these bills will likely push many of us over the edge and force us to shutter our businesses. I cannot emphasize enough the devastation this will cause to the majority of small businesses in our state. Members, those are real stories about the punishing, tax increasing, employee wage robbing realities of this misdirected piece of legislation that we have in front of us. Minnesotans are struggling with what the Democrats are about to do to them. Mr. President, I find it even so ironic that the members who constructed this piece of legislation actually anticipated that this bill was going to smoke small businesses, Mr. President, because if you read section 36 on the bill, beginning on line 62.24, small business assistant grants, Mr. President. So employers are eligible for business assistant grants when more than 15% of the employees are receiving benefits in any given week under this chapter. And that goes on to have some additional conditions. What they're going to do, Mr. President, in the bill is use some of this tax money that employees have had stolen from them by the government. They're going to use some of this tax money to pay for the floundering businesses that are just trying to survive because of the oppressive nature of this program. The people who constructed the bill, Mr. President, know that it's going to hurt businesses, so they put a provision in the bill to have government bring in the CPR for the business. So we're using tax money from this $2.9 billion per biennium tax increase to administer CPR to the businesses that are dying because of the activity in this very oppressive and misdirected bill. When fully enacted, nearly $1,000 of current and potential wages will be taken from the median income family in this state. This is taking employees' money from them and bringing it into a huge government that will add an additional 400 employees. The only thing that benefits here in this bill, Mr. President, is the government, as far as I can tell, because it taxes the gajibers off of people who work hard every day and the people who employ them, but government is held harmless, actually grows by 400 people. Doing the back of the napkin math, Mr. President, at $100,000 apiece, that's $80 million in government per biennium that's bought by stealing the money of hardworking workers in our state and directing it to build more government. Mr. President, members, this is a horrible piece of legislation. It is a sad day for Minnesota. Please vote no on this bill. Let's send it back to committee. Let's bring back something like Senator Coleman had, that actually respects the individuals who work hard in our state every day and the people who work hard to employ them. Thank you, Mr. President.